Awakening versus a final end game of enlightenment. Do you have an opinion on your life? Are you a person who's working on awakening and growing, or are you a person who is shooting for that end result goal of enlightenment, that once you get there, no more growth is needed? Interesting question. Which side are you on? Hey, I'm David Essel. For the past 42 years as a counselor and #1 best-selling author, amongst other roles I play in life, we love these topics of going a little deeper, challenging ourselves, challenging each other to see how can we make the most out of life. If we look at the word awakening versus the word enlightenment, awakening is an active word. It's action-based. It means we're moving towards, moving forwards, moving to something that we're shooting for, right? And when I look at the word someone who claims to be enlightened, I would say that they've reached the pinnacle of life, I guess, if there's such a thing, right? That they have no more to grow, that there's nowhere else to expand, that they're done. They may be still physically alive on earth, but their work is over. Where do you stand? So when I look back when I started in the 80s, I had gurus over the years, many very powerful teachers, incredibly deep spiritual gurus, spiritual teachers, and more. And in the beginning of my career, I had a goal of becoming enlightened. And then as I became a minister and the pastor of an all-faith church, which meant we could talk about anything in the world during my sermons, I would often talk about our goal as human beings is to be enlightened, is to become that guru in the cave in the Himalayas that everyone comes to for their special sauce, secret sauce answers, right? But things have changed over the years for me. Have they for you? Do you still believe that there's a certain phase that we reach called becoming enlightened and you're done and you're over and that's it? Or do you believe, now that I have changed my belief system, something similar to me, that there is no end game in life, that you're constantly awakening, constantly going to that next level, constantly shooting for more humility, more vulnerability, more service, more honesty, more compassion? See, to me, the real end goal is not an end goal. How can I be of more service to society? How can I be of more service to my partner? How can I be of more service? See, the awakened person, or the person who's on the pathway of awakening, is tapping into sources from all over the place, trying to learn, trying to grow. As a matter of fact, one of the books that I recommend a lot of my friends and clients to read is The Idiot's Guide to World Religions. Now, it's a funny title, but it's a powerful book. And in that book, you can continue the awakening phase of learning more about philosophies and religions that you may not have heard of before, that can help us go to that next level, because it says we do not have the answers yet. That's the person on the pathway of awakening. And let me tell you an amazing story from the Dalai Lama himself. And I think this is something I like to share, because maybe it's the difference between someone who says they're enlightened and someone who says, I'm awakening and still have more to learn. Now, the story from the Dalai Lama, the leader of the Buddhist world, is this. In one of his books on courage, he talks about the different tenets of Buddhism. And of course, one of the most famous ones is reincarnation, which means that as you strive to be a better person here during this time on earth, when you return in your next life, you will be a step ahead of the game. You won't have to go through all the struggles you went through this time. Interesting concept, but wait till you hear what the Dalai Lama says about that. He says in his book, and I paraphrase, we teach reincarnation because it's part of the Buddhist teachings. As the leader of the Buddhist nation, I also continue to teach reincarnation, but if I'm honest with you, I must say this. I'm not sure that it's real or true. He says because there's no way to judge or to measure if someone has been reincarnated or not, he said we continue to go and teach it, but I'm not sure it's real. I'm not sure it's true. See, to me, that's someone who's on a pathway of awakening. They're not saying they got it. They're not saying everything I teach is 100% real, true, a law. The people on the pathway of awakening are saying, I believe right now this is accurate, but I still have so much more to learn. Isn't that a fascinating differentiation between saying that we're on a path of awakening versus saying we're on a path to become enlightened? And it might just be me, but people that I've met in the past that have told me that they're enlightened, I have seen cracks in that facade. I have seen maybe that's not as true as they want it to be. And so where I believe I belonged in 1980 versus now is that I am so far away from even caring about becoming enlightened. I would just like to strive for a greater understanding of awakening on a daily basis. You know, one of the greatest stories, another story that I'll tell, a brief one, that tells me I still have so much to learn and so much to grow, is how I used to judge the homeless and how most of us judge them today. And the story is a beautiful one. I lived in Sarasota, Florida, and I would run along the water every day, and I'd go past a park that was filled with the homeless. Their shopping carts and sleeping bags. At nighttime, they had to vacate. But during the day, they could stay there. And every day I'd run by this park, and there'd be a homeless man, usually in the bushes. His name was Mark. Mark would jump out of the bushes, not to scare me, but to panhandle. He'd say, "Sir, I'm so sorry to bother you. I know you're running or you just got done with your run. Do you have any money? I need to have $1 to get back to my brother so I can get a job." Now, Mark told me this story every day, and Mark never, ever could remember my name. So he was always surprised. "How do you know my name?" I said, "Well, Mark, we talked yesterday." So one day, of course, here I am still thinking I'm on a pathway to become enlightened. And Mark stops me, and I reach in my pocket. I never had any money when I ran. And I pulled out what I thought was a $1 bill. And I said, "Mark, here, listen." I blessed it, said, "Mark, use it for your highest good." I turned around and walked away. He said, "Sir." I turned around and said, "Yes." He goes, "I can't take this without giving you something in return." I said, "Mark, I don't need anything. Whatever's in your knapsack is more important for you than me. So no, I'm fine." He goes, "No, I can't take a $5 bill." I said, "I know. I thought it was a 1, Mark, but still keep it." He said, "No, I can't. I must give you something in return." And he said, "I make up really good stories. Let me tell you a story." I said, "Okay, Mark, how long is this going to take?" 5 minutes. I said, "Go for it." Mark blew my mind. Mark told me this story about a rock, the life of a rock, who was confused about why he was on earth, who was confused at why his dreams were never answered. And through his anxiety and confusion and depression, he started to reach out to God more. Now remember, this is a story from a homeless man. And by reaching out to God, at the end of the story, he finds his purpose on earth. Now, before Mark told me this story, I had an opinion about the homeless, like many people do. I stay away from them. There's nothing I could learn from them. They're dirty, they're addicts, they're alcoholics. Now, I was never rude to them, but I never embraced them either until this day. At the end of the story, I said, "Mark, that was incredible." He goes, "Hey, thanks so much." I go, "You know, I'm an author, and someday I may put this in a book." He goes, "Please do." That was one of the most important days of my life where I learned there's no need to work towards enlightenment and end result. Why don't I just keep focusing on becoming more awakened, more compassionate, more loving, more understanding, more of service? I ran back to my place and started jotting down all these notes. It was years and years later that I finally wrote the book Rockstar, Finding God's Purpose for Your Life. Of course, it's available if you'd like on Amazon. But if you are in this pathway of awakening and you're thinking you want to become enlightened, or maybe you're on a pathway of enlightenment and now you want to become more awakened, or maybe you're lost somewhere and you're not sure where to go, let's work together one-on-one. I've spent 42 years, I've gone through lots of ups and downs in regards to my spiritual beliefs, religious beliefs, and I'm becoming more grounded by understanding I have a lot more to learn. But what I have learned, I'd love to share with you. We even have a course called Advanced Spiritual Teachings, where I can take you through that course from anywhere in the world, one-on-one, via phone or Skype, so that we both get a chance to interact and grow together as human beings. Why don't you join me at talkdavid.com? Whether it's taking the course or just signing up for a few sessions for us to discuss your spiritual path, I would love to do that. Everything is at talkdavid.com. Until I see you again, I'm David Essel. Have a beautiful day.